This is Dunkirk.
Dunkirk. Rated R. Actually,
PG-13.
rated PG-13.
Man.
For excessive visuals. And accents.
Thinking back...
Actually, before I start, because this... Okay. Somebody made this for me. This is a... It is a Copenhagen.
Made one for all of us, actually.
Yeah, made one for all of us, but this is the one that she gave me, and I just thought I'd say, I got this a couple weeks ago, but I thought I'd save it for this, because it's just Dunkirk.
Couple weeks? I think it was the Suicide Squad premiere, wasn't it? The review, I think? Isn't that where she gave it to us, or no?
No. This was sent in the mail. I think this may be something different.
So this is actually my first time seeing that one. Okay.
Yeah, this came in the mail. So I just wanted to say, and I got this lovely letter, and it was really sweet, and it's nice just to have fans do something nice, and we really appreciate it. So to Samantha Chase, thank you. Apparently you're my biggest fangirl. Please don't stalk me, but I totally appreciate this. I think it's awesome, and I'm gonna leave it here in the office, and. Yeah, so it'll be in the background from now on. So I hope you see this, because you claim you watch everything I do. Hopefully not through binoculars. So.
There she is!
Hey, how's it going? This is super awesome, and I love it. And I just want to put a shout out to just all our fans. We just love this sort of stuff.
And we do keep a lot of it, too.
Yeah, and honestly, we do.
Yeah.
It gets to a point where sometimes it's I don't know what I'm going to do with, all this stuff, but, totally appreciate it.
And she made one for all of us, I remember. They're all, I think I shared on my Facebook, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's why I thought, it was a while ago, but no, yeah, okay.
I don't know, can I stand... Alright,
Carl's
taking a nap.
Carl, down!
He's taking a nap. He's saluting. He's like, I'm going to bed because it's very stressful in Dunkirk. So anyway, moving on.
Yes, Dunkirk. Man, here's something I haven't done in a while. I'm recommending a good Christopher Nolan project.
Should we start off where I think you and I are a little different. I think you're a little harsher on Nolan.
Did you see... I'm even blanking on the name of it. The space one, his last one.
I got 40 minutes into it and turned it off.
You couldn't even finish it.
No.
Couldn't even finish it. So, and I'm the one that's too harsh.
I didn't like Interstellar. Okay. But... I don't know. I think I'm somewhere in between. There's plenty of things he's done that I like. I enjoyed Memento a lot.
Me too.
Yeah.
No. Dark Knight's one of my favorite movies.
I loved The Prestige. Fucking David Bowie as Nikolai Tesla. How can you go wrong with that? I love The Dark Knight. I like Batman Begins. Dark Knight Rises to me is just a C movie. I'm just it's mad, but I mean, I've seen way worse.
I really don't like. But I'm talking about movies he's produced and stuff like Man of Steel and helped write and stuff like that. There's definitely sort of this stamp of Nolan that was going around that was kind of I don't know, when I saw his name attached, there was sort of this idea of what you're gonna get, and it was kind of decreasing the more these movies would come out. And now we have this one that, seems almost for me kind of tailor-made for me kind of not to like, because it's a war film by Christopher Nolan, who's been very dialogue heavy about what does it mean to be a man, what does it mean, and I'm thinking man, this of all the...
He's not a monster, Doug. He's just ahead of the curve.
Of all the avenues to welcome that's so overplayed, and this does such the polar opposite. It's almost an overcorrect, because there is very little talking in this movie.
Absolutely an overcorrect.
Yeah.
It is, in my opinion, a great movie, but it is an overcorrection.
It's one of the few times where I'm I could have used a few more words.
I could have used a little more dialogue, honestly.
Not much, though.
No. And it's one...
This movie seemed very much driven by the actions of these
should we go through what we like first, and then, just...
I think that's fair.
Things I loved is... In the big picture, the big scale. Visually, it's amazing. I get a sense of scale. the dogfight scenes in particular, it's a game changer. Like, I think from now on we're going to talk about dogfights, like World War II dogfights, if we ever see them again, be like, well, it's not as good as Dunkirk, or wow, that was nearly as good as Dunkirk, or what Star Wars did for space battles, this is going to do for that.
And very important, this was very, very important to get out there. We saw it on IMAX. I don't think you can see it any other way.
Seeing it any other way.
This is really like
and
watching,
I say this, I say
this is like seeing Gravity. It's a totally different movie.
I say this with all due respect to the movie. There's probably no way in hell I'm going to own it. There's no point. This is a movie made for the big screen, and Gravity was the same way. Loved that movie. Some things in the characterization I didn't like in that character, but when it came to visuals, loved it. Don't own it, because I'm just like, there's nothing I'm really going to get on the small screen that's going to compare to that experience I had in IMAX, and it is the same here.
They're both experience movies. Yeah. This isn't so much, even though there's a narrative to both, this is very much about the experience.
This is, if you have a rich friend, maybe, who's got one of those giant home theater setups, maybe then it's just like, it's worth owning, because you could theoretically maybe compete a bit with, but
just sit really close to it.
Yeah, but in IMAX, like, it's very rare there's a movie like this where I'm like, I know of nothing like it. It reminded me of when I saw Titanic, which is, an hour and a half of a sappy love story, but once that ship starts sinking, I was blown away. It's the same thing here. It's the same thing with seeing something like Star Wars on the big screen, or Mad Max Fury Road's another one.
Yeah.
That I have yet to really watch religiously on the small screen, because it was just so impressive on the big screen.
I have. That's still a good movie on the small screen.
I saw it. I put it on once, and I'm like, it's still a good movie, but I'm like, it's not quite the same. Like, it was so good on the big screen, so huge. That,
and something I'll say with the IMAX, too, is that, because some of you might be thinking, well, is it going to be like Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises, where it's like the aspect ratio is so jarringly different that when the IMAX shots are there,
I never noticed.
Like, no, I mean, they changed the aspect ratio so that, with Dark Knight, those black bars are very prominent when it's not IMAX.
Some scenes were filmed in IMAX. I think some scenes weren't.
Yeah, no, and that was the case
here.
No.
I thought was filmed in IMAX.
No.
Okay.
I checked, but I had to check.
Because I didn't notice. So that tells you how invested I was.
Yeah, no, they changed the aspect ratio so that when it does change, it's much more minimal. They didn't do like the super widescreen. They did it where it's like, it's kind of like this widescreen where Dark Knight Rises, or Dark Knight, if you had to watch it, you'd have the black bars, on the top, you'd be seeing it like that. So they should at this aspect so that when it does go IMAX, it's not as big a difference, to a point where it's hard to notice. You have to actually kind of look to notice that it's not.
I didn't notice at all, which tells me that visually speaking, he was doing something right.
And you feel like you're there in like every single shot.
There's occasionally, like, particularly,
and this is a movie where you need to feel like you're there.
No, with the dog fights, bullets out of nowhere would come in. It's like, it'd be like Tom Hardy or something, and where's the other one? And then all of a sudden it's like, pong, 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 and like, I would jump. Like, because you would just feel that impact.
Even kind of duck a little bit.
Just the intro with those first few guys getting picked off and wandering around, like, it reminded me of the intro to The Dark Knight. I thought there was something about those early shots where, with looking up at the skyscrapers and the people holding the Joker mask, I got this sense of scale. And this intro with the leaflets falling from the sky with the Germans, "We have you surrounded, haha." I just got this sense of immediate scale. And he's really good at that. He was good at that in The Dark Knight. He's great at that here.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else. I thought the score was good.
Hans Zimmer to me is like the new John Williams, Danny Elfman. Like, I feel like he never misses. He always hit, even though they can be a little repetitive.
I'm not gonna go that far, but I feel,
can't think of a bad Hans Zimmer score
in the film. Definitely in the film, I thought it worked, because it always
keeps the heartbeat going.
It was it always keeps the heartbeat going. It was always tense, which is what you need in this movie. I've bought film scores before, like Star Wars and Batman and stuff. I wouldn't buy this, like, because there's I'm like, all you're gonna hear is a lot of ticking, like, tick, 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 chun, 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 like.
But even then, I feel like...
But in the movie, it really, really works, because I just was on the edge of my seat from beginning to end.
Yeah. Well, you want to know the most jarring scene? I mean, I don't think I'm giving anything away, but I mean, like, you know, there's a scene where a character goes into, I think it's in, like, a train or something like that. It sits down in a train, and it's just complete silence.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa.
And it's one of the few times where you get complete silence in the movie, and all of a sudden when
like
the ticking and the music stops, and he just falls asleep, and it's silent, you're just like... Wow.
The silence is uncomfortable, almost. It's
the cinematography is great. There's one shot in particular I love where there's a ship sinking. And so it's capsizing.
The water coming
Yeah, and he gets a shot where he flips the camera, so you get this shot of just guys climbing on the wall, but this wall of water comes from the left side of the screen, just shoom. It's the scariest scene in the movie. I'm like, I don't think I've seen that shot outside of, like, the Ten Commandments. It really shows you that, like, impact of just water, and it's just like, there it is, doom.
And it's very disconcerting, but you can, and it's a good mix though, because you have these nice wide shots, but you also have a lot of shots where you really feel like you're in the action, and it's a good mix. We talk about Saving Private Ryan sometimes, and we say there's, even though I like, for the most part, cinematography, and that it's a little too much shaky cam sometimes, to a point where it's a little too much like you're in the action. This felt like a good mix,
this
like
was
a good
20
variety. I never,
this
even
movie
through the
is
sweeping shots, I never feel like I'm out of it.
Yeah, when it comes to tension, take that 20 minutes from Saving Private Ryan and make it an hour 40.
Yeah,
that's how I felt. I was exhausted by the time this movie ended.
That's another good thing to make very clear. This is not... With the exception of maybe the people on this little boat, the family on this boat, this is not a very quote-unquote character-driven movie. This is very much like Black Hawk Down. It is entirely about people trying to get away, but it's a pro and a con. I think it's more of a pro in this. I think those movies can work okay if they're done well, and I think this is done well.
The other thing I like, it proved to me, and I've had this theory for a long time, that we complain about the lack of gore and things, but there's certain films where it's just like, okay, this just needed the gore. Like, that would have been the fun of it. You don't need it here.
No.
Like, this is a PG-13 film, and damn if it didn't feel like an R-rated movie to me, even though it's PG-13.
I was even thinking about what I was going to say before.
It is intense enough that I was like, I would take no child
what I was going to say before, technically, on a gore level and stuff like that, I mean...
There's none.
No. This could be PG.
This could be a PG movie. I just think it's so intense.
I think the intensity is what raises it, but I'm like...
And because of that,
I think it could.
There's no CGI blood, which is a huge problem I have with modern gore, is it always relies on a lot of CGI, and it still kind of takes me out of it a bit, and you never had that problem here, because by not emphasizing the gore, you didn't have to go to a CGI trick like that. In fact, I didn't notice. I'm sure there's CGI all over this film. I didn't notice a lot of it, which is a huge plus.
Yeah, I
really
agree.
Rare.
There is nothing that stands out to me as, that was obvious CG, or that was CG. Again, and that could be because I was just so invested, I was so sucked in. But yeah, no, thinking back, I'm like, I'm with you. Of course there has to be CG in this, but it's like... I can't think of any moment it's like, oh yeah, that was obvious CG, that was obvious CG. Like, it's one of those things where it did sort of blend very seamlessly. Much of it, it's easy to believe the stuff is really there, and I think part of that is because, it's strange because it's both a bigger and a smaller war movie. This isn't like Private Ryan where it's this grand thing, all these people going against each other and shooting and tanks and stuff like that. You're
following them across the whole...
There's definitely a lot of people in this, but you're...
technically 2 locations.
Yeah.
The pilots are practically
because it's like, it is sort of all the stuff that you think of. It's like planes flying and people on boats and explosions and stuff, but I mean, it's very much like it's kind of on this beach and the planes, it's sort of just focusing on one person at a time. There's a little boat of this family that we're following that's going to Dunkirk, and it's one of those things where it's like, it feels both very big and very small at the same time. I feel like that's what the best war movies do.
And I think the other thing that I like about this is it's a different... Oh, we had Ghost.
Yes. Eclipse came early.
It is it's a story that needs to be told that is not American. Because America is the basically seat of the film industry of the world. You know, and I'm not going like, oh my god, USA, it just is. You know, most of the stories are aimed at us. And so most of these stories that you can throw millions of dollars at are all American. This is a story that, you know, I think the Brits know well, obviously. And Churchill's speech was based on, but I think there's a lot of people in the rest of the world that don't know it. They know the big events of World War II, but Dunkirk may not be something they're aware of. So it's something different to see. I was aware of Dunkirk, but the intricacies of it, I wasn't. And as somebody who's had to sit through crappy movies like Pearl Harbor, like, this is the Pearl Harbor movie I fucking wanted.
I was thinking that too. I say, you know, if you really want to show your, you know, dedication to the military and all that they've done, it's like, this is the movie. You know, not fucking Transformers movies with the military and waving the American flag. It's like, you know, no, you want to show
without being
your dedication to the military. You show a film like this, and you make a film.
That's the weird thing about it. As tense and as exhausted as I was still watching it, whereas the Transformers movies are just as loud and just as obnoxious with their sound effects and the visuals, but I literally just get bored. I fall asleep. Whereas this one, I left in shell shock. Like, holy shit, like, I couldn't sleep. We saw like a 7 o'clock show. I didn't go to bed till 2:30 in the morning that night. I was just fucking wired. But yeah, so it's just a story you don't see often, and the closest thing we've got is Tora Tora Tora. It's kind of dated. There's some similarities. There's not a lot of character in that, but honestly, I feel this is the better movie. So I'm a little fucking jealous.
You know,
that there's not an American battle movie this good. You know, Saving Private Ryan I think is the closest, but that deviates on this long. And that's the other thing is I like the fact that unlike Pearl Harbor, even to a certain degree, Saving Private Ryan, this one's not that schmaltzy. Like, there's some schmaltz at the end a little bit, but it's earned.
You know, let me talk about that schmaltz, because I know what you're talking about. Okay, so this ends, big surprise for a Nolan film, with a speech, but no, there's so many...
He earned it.
No, when I thought about it, there are so many reasons this speech works. First of all, it's a speech that really exists. I mean, it's not something Nolan made
it's a real speech.
No, but the other thing, and I didn't even think about it until now, and this is brilliant. It's, you know, it's the "we'll fight them on the beaches." Well, it's that speech. But you know how it's done?
The Churchill speech.
Yeah, you know how it's not Churchill making the speech. It is one of the soldiers reading the paper, reading it almost very mellow, like you would read it, and it's showing everything that's happened just with him reading the paper. I'm like, that's this movie. This is this incredible thing that happened, but it's being told through this small voice, but this small voice that is so important.
Yeah, and there's like 2 musical cues in the whole thing that get, I don't know how else to put it, transformery, just this kind of like
long, or like, Dark Knight.
Yeah, no, but very just kind of like soft brass. It's like, this is our patriotic moment, like doo doo doo, like. And there's only 2 moments in this film where it does that. The one involves the pilot, and the other is at the end when they're reading the speech, and it's just, it feels earned. I'm like, this gets technically a little schmaltzy at the end, but the whole damn thing feels earned. Oh, wait, there's one more scene when all the boats arrive, which is not a spoiler. You know that because the trailer shows it. That's just the story of what happens.
Well, honestly,
but okay,
even if you say that could mean anything.
Earned. Yeah, all of those moments feel earned when they do that, versus like, you know...
You need those hints of levity.
Yeah, so it managed to do this without being completely overly schmaltzy about it, and in many ways, I thought it worked way better than, obviously, Pearl Harbor, which is not a good movie, but even better than something like Saving Private Ryan, which I've always thought was a little overrated, but I'm still like, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, this one really, like, nailed it.
No, I mean, and, yeah, Private Ryan, though, I'm with you. I like it. I always say I like it enough. There's so many things are well done in that movie, but... Again, there is a lot of schmaltz
Spielberg.
to it.
In the same way there's Nolanisms in this film, there's Spielbergisms in that one.
Yeah.
And schmaltz is always one of his biggest problems.
And I think he nailed it with "it earned it," because I know that's ironic because that's a Private Ryan line.
Earn it! I hated that scene too. I'm like, what an awful thing to say.
But here's the thing. So
the last words. Hey buddy, no pressure, no guilt, but these are my dying words. Earn it!
I don't like that
Holy
either.
shit!
No.
That's gonna give a guy a complex.
No, but here's the thing, too, is that so many of these war movies start out, and not even just war movies that want to seem big, start out like, we're already big, we've already hit it, and we're going to treat the whole movie like that. And this
builds.
It's the
best moments are at the end, really.
No. It starts off small and builds and builds a bit. This was kind of like what I want in Fellowship of the Ring. I wanted to start small and build a bit, and get to that point.
Again.
No, I know, but this film does that right, where when it does get to those moments where you have kind of the, for lack of a better word, schmaltzy, sappy music, it's like, no, you need this and you feel it. You feel those moments.
You not only need it, you want it, because it's been so tense.
But again,
and so fucking nuts so far that it's like, okay, like we finally get the little bit of reward, and it's just like they say, hunger is the best spice. That's what it is. It's like we're just hungering for something to latch onto, and he gives it to us at the end. And on that level, I think the film is brilliant.
But again, very important to emphasize, this is definitely a film where the actions define the people.
Well, let's start talking
It is not the dialogue.
I think this is where some of the Nolanisms creeped in a bit for me.
Everything is...
Do we want to go into our few negatives?
I still got some good things to say.
Go. I was just trying to transition.
Okay.
Go ahead, knock yourself out.
It can kind of tie in a sense, but
go for it.
We love Kenneth Branagh. Even when he's bad, we love him, because he's one of these people where it's like, he's a great actor, but he's also a very hammy actor, and even he'll acknowledge that, and you can always kind of see the ego in there and stuff. This is one of those films where I
needed him in this film bad.
No, it's one of those
because he had one of the few, he has this ability, even when he's schmaltzy, to give you kind of a little bit of a sense of warmth, and you needed that. So hope and warmth was about the only thing he was imparting in this film, and I'm like, I fucking needed that.
No, but I bought it. I bought it.
Nothing
I felt like, I'm watching Kenneth Branagh do his thing.
And he's the master of that. When the boat's coming, he's just,
yeah, it was.
What is it? Herm.
It's one of the few times.
It well. It's one of the few times where I'm just I just wanted that so much. I'm like, oh, please, just give me the little taste of him, just enough, some sentimentality. I'll take it. I'll take the sentimentality, and he delivered it.
It did not feel over the top, and maybe that's because we do see Branagh doing over the top so much, but in a great way. I love seeing him go over the top.
It only felt over the top just because everything else was so not to such a degree than any other movie that would have just been a normal scene, but... To me, it felt a little over the top, but I feel like that's what they were going for, and it needed that, and I'm grateful they did it. Just because I'm like, okay, I need, it's weird. You almost need an occasional cliche or something just to latch on to a little, just to be like, okay, a little break. Okay, we're going to have a Hollywood movie moment.
Yeah, and there's definitely parts where I'm like, okay, a lot of this, I kind of figure they're taking liberties, to add to the suspense and to sort of add,
it's Hitchcockian. I have to feel that, okay, some of these things probably either didn't happen or didn't happen quite as suspensefully as it's implying.
Yeah, but, that's my thought too. But it works. It pulls you more in, and I think any true story is always going to have...
I'd be interested. My guess is...
Stuff like that changed.
I'd be very interested how much is actually true and how much is just he came up with fictional characters to insert into the battle to impart, which I have a problem with. It's giving us a sense of what was going on. It felt real for the most part.
It does feel real, and I like that I wasn't able to tell for the most part. Again, there's some things that we could tell. And then I guess the last thing we'll talk about that probably other people are talking about is that this is told in different time lengths, once a week, once a day, once an hour. Surprisingly, I knew this going in.
Overall, it works.
But yeah, because when I heard that, I'm like, oh Christ, because I'm like, that's always the thing with Nolan. He never tells these in the right order. He always plays with time or something like that. But they
one of the few times
usually work, and it works here.
It works, and the way they intersect is cool. I like seeing the different points of view and the way these three stories kind of intersect at random moments. There's pitfalls to that, and I'll get into that. But it's overall, I didn't have the very idea of doing that, I think is cool. I didn't have a problem with it. I do joke, I'm just like, God help us if this guy ever tries to tell a story, like, in the correct
just
order.
in order.
Yeah, like,
but
just
he's for the most part good at it. I mean, all his movies have something to do with playing around with time in one way or another.
Yeah.
Even Interstellar. And when he does it, honestly, those elements, I'm trying to think if I've ever had a problem with it. I don't think I have. I've usually been okay with them.
My problem...
With the exception of Man of Steel, but he didn't direct that. I know he produced it and helped write it and stuff, but I'm like, that didn't work.
I have technical problems with... It's hard to explain, but for somebody who uses different timelines, I feel like sometimes his shots don't connect or land properly. And the weird thing is, in this movie, he's got... It proves something that I had thought for a while, but I'm like, okay, I've got it now, what the problem is. Because I always feel like I'm watching an incomplete film. Even in this movie, I'm like, there's something that feels incomplete about this. What is it? He has a sense of the big picture. Really well. Genius level. His big shots are amazing. When it comes to small shots, like the small picture, that's where you get tripped up. If there's a fist fight in a Nolan film, if there's a drowning scene in a Nolan film, any of that, he confuses just, well, I'm just going to show chaos with somehow that's the right call. And you end up just getting confused and pulled out of it. And it's such a jarring juxtaposition between the bigger shots that he does.
I see what you're talking about.
Dark Knight, this was a huge issue I had in The Dark Knight. Like, for instance, you would get the giant shots of him over Hong Kong, flying away, the truck flipping, all of that great. You put Batman in a close quarters fist fight, good fucking luck trying to figure out what the hell you're looking at. And it just comes off as confusing, and then you miss certain plot points.
I will say there was one or two times in this.
There's a character who dies in this.
And
my wife didn't notice it the first time. I barely remembered it. I was trying to put it together in my head. You missed it.
I missed it.
I know a number of people who miss it, and it's because it's shot so piss poorly. You just can't make out what's going on. It's like, it's the chaos of war. It's the genius of the auteur. No, it's just bad. Like, I'm sorry, it's just...
I thought a lot of the close stuff, a lot of it worked, but you're right, there are times where I couldn't follow what's going on. And missing that big a plot point...
If it's just him on a face and it's a close-up, that's fine. If it's a close-up action scene, you have a 50-50 shot that it's going to be composed well enough to make out what's going on.
No, you know what?
It's a huge problem.
I'll say this. I did notice a character died. I didn't know it was that character. Like, so I did pick up on that.
Well, you notice it because you see the drowning hand.
Yeah.
But it's like, who was
I don't know who that was. No, I don't know.
You had to ask me afterwards, and I'm just like, well, I
missed that part.
And it creates confusion in the plot, and it's just more like The Dark Knight, the big themes. I'm ahead of the curve, and the long discussions and these big moments, yet little things like at the end I still am just confused with, like, it's just it's the minutia of like
how did Joker know all of this even with that IQ? How did he
not even that, but just like when Batman's putting all the bullets together, what the fuck is he doing? I still don't know.
Shooting the guns and stuff.
Shooting the guns. I don't know what he's doing there.
He's detectiving.
Somehow Batman can fall from 40 stories. I know the building they shot that at. It's in downtown Chicago, on the river. That's like a 40-story building. Falls, lands on a car with Rachel in tow. Survives, not a problem, and yet at the end, Two-Face takes a 2 to 3 story dive off a cliff, and the way it's shot and put together, I didn't even know if he was dead or not yet. I was just staring at him like, and then when they had the memorial picture, I'm like, well, guess he died. Like, it's the little scenes where he drops the ball that I find so weird, because he has a great visual eye for giant scenes, but he has this terrible eye for smaller scenes, and then when you put them together, it always feels like his movie is strangely incomplete. Or he doesn't show, like, a transition to get from one scene to another. So you're just left with this jarring cut.
Yeah, that's true.
And I am so sick of people telling me, that's the brilliance of it, you see, because it puts you on edge, you don't know. I'm like, no, it's just bad storytelling.
I still don't know how Two-Face got out of that car after he shot that guy.
Which sucks. Because I think he is so good at so many other things. Like, it's not to just piss on Nolan and say he's terrible. I think he's a genius. But I feel like that's some sort of weird trade-off. Like, the power of genius is always like, you're really good at some things, but not in the other. That is where he drops the ball. And it's a similar problem in this film. There's just these little scenes where shit happens. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't follow, and you can't tell me it's like, oh, it's because you don't understand the timeline, you're not smart. That has nothing to do with the timeline, it's just visual storytelling. But so much of the rest of this movie has some of the best visual storytelling I've ever seen that I'm just like, guess I'll take it. It's a Nolanism. So that was one problem. I'd say one of my other gripes is with the characters in this film. The family on the boat, I think, is strong. You get about 12 lines of dialogue in the whole movie. In the whole movie that give you a sense of who they are, what they are. You know, there's a line about, his son was in the RAF, this, I won't give spoilers away, but little lines here and there. Cillian Murphy's character, I understand where he's coming from. Even the pilots, and the pilots are...
Strangely enough,
and they're a special case, because they're supposed to only have 1 hour of time, basically, that you're following them, so I'm like, so that's mostly battle. It's battle and just flying to the location. I had a sense of who they were, maybe through the visual storytelling or whatever. The biggest gripe I have with this movie is the 2 or 3 main characters on the beach that aren't the officers, Kenneth Branagh, Ralph Fiennes. I did not know them any better by the end of this movie than I did at the first. I know one guy wanted to take a shit. I know they all wanted to get off the beach.
I'll make a little bit.
That was it.
I'll make a little bit of an argument for that, because I remember you were telling me that going in. I thought I was going to think the same thing. I like that these two, particularly the 2 guys. The third guy, you're right, I kind of forget even who he was or where he came from or whatever, but the second guy, I was saying, like, or the 2 guys that kind of starts off with, I like how they don't know each other, they kind of just immediately kind of get this connection really fast of like, we're just sort of stuck together. I'm doing this, you want to, okay, we're kind of doing it, and they just sort of keep helping each other out, and without saying anything, pretty much. Just a little, hey, psst, or, I mean, it's like, that's it, but there's kind of this immediate connection, and especially in a war film, where you just kind of make friends really fast through a situation without having to really know much about it. Okay. But then there's kind of a twist in this, where something is revealed about a person, and
here's the problem.
And when it's trying to be figured out what's going to be done, it's one of those things where it's like, no, but that's not right. That's not. It's because he did kind of go through this stuff without talking very much to him and stuff, and it's one of those things where I feel like, I felt like it worked enough.
What did it amount to, though? Knowing where the movie goes.
I mean, no, because it's people trying to get off the beach, and it's like, and even at the end, Kenneth Branagh says, I'm staying for the French, and it is one of those things where it's like, and you got sort of this connection of, soldiers, and then, civilians coming in, trying to help and stuff like that.
What do you know about him? What have you gained from any of this?
Oh, but I mean, I know as much about him as I know about the pilot. Yeah. But I feel like I don't need to know too much. I get that sense.
But it's not
I get just enough I want to care.
It's not a case of I don't need to know too much. Because I didn't know too much about the family or the pilots. Like, I mean, when you look at it...
The pilot especially.
That is bare bones as it gets. Is just that. I don't need to know too much about them. I just need to know something. Anything. And I got 0. And it doesn't mean, like, I'm not watching the film going, well, I don't care, therefore I hope they die. Like, I hope they survive. But I didn't get a single thing out of it, and the excuse I keep hearing is, well, it takes place in a battle, so you can't... Well, okay, but here's the problem. It's a week, a day, and an hour. Those 3 guys on the beach got the full week, and you can't tell me that there was no moment where they could sit down for a second just to fucking eat. And maybe have 1 line of dialogue that would just give me
No, but they kind of
insight.
do. Where's your friend go? Oh, he's looking for a way out, I think. And again, I think there is something kind of hidden there. He's up to something.
Okay, we would have to go to spoiler corner for this, but there's a reason for that. But it doesn't reveal anything about their character.
I mean, like, I feel like
I thought it did at first until the twist, and then I'm like, oh, so it really wasn't revealing much about the character itself.
No, but I feel like, I don't know, somehow I felt like that worked, especially in tying into just all these people trying to get off and who they are and stuff like that, and I don't know, I felt like in the overall theme and idea of the movie, I felt like it worked enough. The movie,
when it came to the family and the pilots, kept building. You kept learning a little more about the character as it went, even though you started off at absolute 0. Like, a lot of people will put character development to start in the beginning just a little bit to get you hooked quick. He didn't do that with the pilots and the family. The weird thing was,
But I feel like that time with them spent together, just all the attempts not working, they try a different attempt, that doesn't work, they get a new guy, I feel like that's the connection. I feel it's about them trying to make a connection.
It was all spent just running, ducking.
But I feel like that's the connection.
That's just doing stuff. Here's the problem.
But they're people that have never met, and suddenly they're doing these things together, and just them doing these things again, their actions being defined, that's what's kind of drawing them together. And sometimes they split, sometimes they come back together, and they just sort of keep going through these experiences together, so that when it does come to that time where the twist is there, it's like they've had this experience. The experience is what kind of drove them together, even though they never really talked.
That was the weakest part of the movie. Was when they turn on each other in the boat. That's like one of the few moments where I'm like, oh my god, this just turned into like a standard Hollywood.
See, I love that scene.
Thriller more. No, I was just like, are you?
Even though you're right, it did.
I was like, are you fucking kidding me? In this of all movies, like we're gonna do this like a scene that goes back to the dawn of time. Like that was like it didn't wreck the movie, but I was just like of all the scenes in the movie, I'm like, wow, that's where it got the weakest. Like, it just turned into Lord of the Flies for a second. Like, really?
I don't know. In a war movie, I feel like those scenes do happen, and they need to happen. This is about all these people trying to get off, and they're trying to get off together, and now they're talking about sacrificing each other.
Yeah, but that's part of the problem, is you're trying to identify with these characters, and then you just had them fucking turn on each other, and now all of a sudden I'm going, well, wait a second. Like, I'm not that invested in any of those three on the beach that they were following.
It's strange because usually I would be on the same boat. Like, I don't know enough about these people, but there is something about them just going through the experience
particularly
together.
In a war movie. I'm like, if you're going to follow somebody through life and death, I should have just something. Anything. I mean, you can complain about
the experience.
You can complain about Mad Max, but that still told you at the beginning that he lost his wife and child.
No, but I feel like those little things, like when he's walking back, he says, down here, on the bridge, and just those little connections, I feel like those go a long way in war, and they go a long way in a war movie.
It was more complicated than watching a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
But I do feel there's a connection with Tom and Jerry.
in something that we're being told is one of the greatest war movies of all time. It is a weakness. It does not destroy the movie, but
see, I feel like the experience is what's drawing them together, and the fact that they are just the little things helping each other out go a long way.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's kind of the connection.
You still become a band of brothers at some point. You still have, at some point, a downtime, or if you go through an experience, there's still there's still kind of a beginning and end. He only chose. It was Nolan's decision to choose to show us only the moments where they're just running around out of a week's worth of time. If this was 1 hour, if you're just like, this is 1 hour of Dunkirk, these guys just met, they've got 1 hour, they're in the middle of a battle, boom, one dies or something, or they're split up, and that was it. So he said, I get that, but with a week's worth of time? Like, you can't give me one line, and I'm not sitting here going, I want Nolan's speeches. Like, no, I could have taken, what is this, an hour, 40-minute movie? 5 lines of dialogue or less could have done it. 2 lines of dialogue, even. They go on the ship and they're eating there, and the only line of dialogue he gets is he wants a quick exit. I think Nolan thought that was enough just to show the actions. I don't think it is. It doesn't wreck the movie, but whenever it cut back to them, whenever I saw it, I'm just like, yeah, I hope they live, and I'm interested in the visuals, but I'm not really into them. I don't know.
It's
who
strange.
They are.
Like I said, because I should be agreeing with you, because everything you say is right, but it's one of those things where it's like, for some reason it worked for me. For some reason, them
even
going
Kenneth Branagh, when the ships come in, he's asking, where are you from? And, we're from here. He's like, great, brilliant. It's just little lines like that do so much. Just so much. I think that's what people forget. It's like, when 2 actors are talking and engaging, they're not just engaging the other actor. They're engaging us, the audience. They are talking to us and saying who I am, what I am doing, why I am here. And I'm not saying that you needed just speeches and speeches, but to remove
a couple words, a couple lines.
Entirely. Because all I got from all their faces and stuff was fear and exhaustion. And I get it, it's Dunkirk, you want fear and exhaustion, but they were still there a week. You could show fear and exhaustion. I got that out of the pilots too. They're flying for an hour. The frustration of trying to shoot that guy down and everything. But I just felt more of a connection with the pilot and the people on the boat than I did these three who had yet a whole week's of time worth to tell the story.
I see it. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I think the experience does help them.
And it's a Nolanism because that's a common criticism of his movies and one that I generally agree with. I think the only movie where I had the most connection with a character was The Dark Knight. And I think it's more because that's built into the character from scratch because it's someone else's property.
Or Batman Begins.
Batman Begins too, yeah. It's with those two. I think that's because the character was already prefab. It was pre-written. But it's a common criticism of Nolan movies, and this one is no different. He does it well with the family and the pilot.
Very well with the family.
Yeah, I bought that. I bought Cillian. Well, okay. Cillian Murphy's character. There's a great example. Not a whole lot of dialogue, nothing but fear and exhaustion, and he's nuts, but I knew who that was. I could get that from the performance. If I could get it for him, why couldn't you do that with them on the beach?
I feel like, again, sort of that, like, there's a lot of barrier in between them not knowing much about the other and stuff like that, but it's sort of like, okay, but we have this connection that we're both in this together now. We're kind of helping each other out just in little ways. You help me with that little thing, I'll help you with this little thing. Yeah, you help me with that, I'll help you with this. And just these little things that, like I said, I think because of this setup, because of this scenario, hold up, and that is the connection. But I know what you're saying too. It's like you don't care that much about because you don't have enough.
It's 50. I'll say this. It's 50% there. They say actions speak louder than words. That's great. So that gives me the 50%. From their actions, but it's still, we're in a war movie, so I feel like, well, that's gonna happen anyway. You've thrown them in that environment.
It'd be a shock.
They're gonna, you've got cowards and stuff like that, but I'm not watching what they're doing going, oh, I'm so surprised. I've gleaned so much from the fact that they want to help each other out or get the hell out of a war zone. Like, that just generally will kind of go with the territory, so I'm just like, I don't know, just something to latch on to.
I see what you're saying, but
I think the only other
I thought it worked okay.
The only other gripe I have is just the way they presented the timelines.
So, okay,
I know so many people who got lost in this film, and the typical Nolan fanboy response is always, you're just not smart enough to understand what's going on.
I love how you're yelling at me at the beginning of this review saying, you're way too hard on Nolan, you have done nothing but say, and the Nolan fanboys, everyone tells me, I blah, blah, blah,
no. I have way less of a problem with Nolan than I do with his defenders. The Nolan fandom drives me up a wall. Because it's always the same excuse. If you have a criticism of Nolan, it's, you just don't understand what Nolan is, the brilliant auteur. Or, because we're all too stupid to figure it out. Or the other one I like is just, well, that is the brilliance of it, because you need to see it a second time. So therefore you learn more emotion. Whatever. The problem is...
I don't think that was the intent either.
No.
He clearly says at the beginning where you are... has a number for it, kind of like it's homework, and then, the span that's taken.
He doesn't do it right. I mean, that's the only way to put it.
But the funny thing is, you brought it up before going in, because everyone sort of told me about this time thing, so it's like, I had an idea going in that helped me out and stuff, but, when I saw it, I was like, if I saw this for the first time, this wouldn't straighten this out for me. This wouldn't make it clear what's going on. And it's not something where it's like, well, you need to see it again. That's the twist.
No, because it adds
you miss
nothing.
Info, and it doesn't add anything.
It takes away from it. It's not like there are some Nolan films where it's like, you see the second time and it adds something. This is a case where by not knowing that, of how the timeline works, it adds nothing. It only takes away from the movie because you're spending time to figure out what the hell am I looking at. It doesn't add anything. I saw it a second time. I'm like, didn't add anything emotionally. I just knew from the beginning, okay, this is what I'm seeing. So there had to be a better way to do that.
I will say this. When I saw it, I was asking my first thought is, man, the toughest part of writing the script, I bet you anything, or the thing that went through the most rewrites, or them trying to figure out is how do we explain how this is going on, what the timelines are and stuff like that. And yes, it's easy to say that wasn't the right way, but I'd be lying if I said I knew the right way. I feel like there is one, but I don't have it. I don't know what the solution would be.
There's one key mistake, and that is no mention of what the mole is made until probably 15, 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, couldn't they call it the Mole Beach? Because the mole could be someone trying to,
and that's
you know,
and
Nolan's
not an idiot. He knows the audience he's making this for. This is going to be in America, even though it's a British story. He has to know. Most people would know that, you know, you may know what Dunkirk is, but you're not going to know the technicals of the beachhead's name was the Mole, or the area that the Nazis surrounded the Allies was called the Mole. Like, and to not mention that, particularly when you had a fucking opening text. He had an opening text where he laid it out. All you need to do is insert, you know, at Dunkirk, dash, at a place codenamed the Mole or something, dash, finish the rest of your sentence. Right there, you would have known where you're at. Another way to do it, the soldier comes in. He tries to stand in line with any of those people. One of them just looks at him forlornly and says, "Welcome to the Mole, mate." Like, just there was some way to establish it before you cut to all the other timelines. But if you do that, though, then they may know what's actually going on, and heaven forbid. So, and that was a problem. And it's not that, like, I already had, like, some fans like, I guess they were just too dumb to figure it out. Like, no, it's just, all it said was, the Mole, 1 week. I thought that, I was like, well, I didn't realize there was a German spy at Dunkirk, but I'm like, maybe it's a German spy. And then when it said the sea 1 day, I'm like, okay, now I'm confused. I'm like, well, maybe they're a day out? I'm like, is the Mole like an operation when the Nazis are going to attack? I'm like, wait, maybe the Mole is a ship that's coming in? Maybe the Mole, like,
you know,
it never established what the Mole was until Kenneth Branagh finally mentions it 20 minutes in, and it's such a jumbled, quick line, you blink and you miss it. And then the second time it's mentioned is in the middle of the movie where it's more prominent. So if you don't know that going in, that this is how the timeline works, like, it's not that people are dumb. It's just super easy if you didn't, like, catch on that that's what that actually meant, to get confused.
There's a movie, I actually don't like the movie, but I think it has a brilliant setup. It's called The Hours, and it very quickly and very cleverly sets up what's going on. It shows, you know, shows these three different timelines. One's with Virginia Woolf, one's with this housewife, and another is with, like, I forget who Meryl Streep plays, but it's something in current time. And it shows Virginia Woolf writing the lines, and the lines of, you know, I think I'll pick up flowers this evening. That cuts to Julianne Moore reading it years later, I think I'll pick up flowers this evening. And then it cuts to Meryl Streep years later just saying, honey, I think I'll pick up flowers this evening. And that immediately sets up the three different timelines, sort of what the connection is and what the theme is. And it was one of those things where I'm like, that was brilliant. And that's a strange, abstract idea being presented so quickly and so cleverly.
There are ways to do it. And I'm not buying the excuse. They're like, it's just you plebeian non-Nolan fans are too stupid to figure it out. I'm like, no, I'm a smart guy. I know, like, and that's the thing. Once you know exactly how it works, I don't find it difficult to follow. It gets a slightly difficult.
No, I went in knowing, and I went in knowing,
and followed it fine because I told you. Yeah, I'm like, just know this going in. I didn't have to explain anything else except when it says 1 week, 1 day. It just means this story
that were thrown off, and then they figured it out. It's like, oh, okay. And here's the reason why I think it was not intentional, because Nolan loves to do the little aha, it was this all along, like he does later in this. There is a little bit of a twist. It's not huge, it's a little bit of a twist. And there was no moment for that. It was just a little too pretentious for me. Just like, this is the way it was presented as one period. The Mole, underline, dash, 1 week, 2, this, and there was just something. When you told me that, you told me on the phone before I saw it, and I was like, that doesn't seem that bad. But something about when I saw it, I'm like,
when you saw it, you get what I'm saying?
I got what you were saying.
There was just like, and the funny thing is, I honestly thought it was a really cool way to tell the story.
Yeah,
so my complaint is not that it's out of order or that it's too hard to follow. It's, if you know it, it's not insanely difficult to follow. You just have to readjust your mind just ever so slightly, but I didn't find it very difficult. But it's just not knowing that going in. I spent 20 minutes of the movie going, well, what is the Mole? Is there a German spy? And then I'm like, well, wait, why is it night here and not day another? Like, you know, and then finally it hit me. I'm like, oh, it's being told in 3. And I'm like, well, why me just fucking, like, find a better way to say that.
The surprises in this movie is what's behind the corner. When are we going to get hit? The surprise is not what's going on. It's not twists and turns like Dark Knight or Inception
and that's the problem. The way
you're supposed to get this very quick.
And the way he set it up, though, it turns it into a twist. And anybody who says, well, that means you have to see the movie a second time to learn. No, you don't learn jack shit.
No, I don't think that was intentional. I think you were supposed to get very quickly what was going on, how it was being presented and stuff.
And on that level, he fucking botched it. And, but it's still, I think it's a great movie. And if you know that going in, like, that's your cheat sheet, I think it's fine. It's just the way he presented that just drove me up a wall.
And, poor Tom Hardy, yet again, another film where he has to have shit all over his face. This poor guy. It's like Johnny Depp and eye makeup. It's like just a given now.
I almost wish that... Because I had forgotten when I saw it the second time, I'm like, oh, you do see their faces right before they put the mask on. It's brief, but I almost wish they had the mask on from the beginning, so at the end it's the reveal, and it's like, oh my god, it's Mad Max! Because I miss, I wasn't really, I was listening to the dialogue and still in my head running through, what the hell is the mall? And I really wasn't paying attention to their faces, so they put the masks on. So I'd kind of forgotten that when he takes the mask off at the end, I'm like, oh my god, it's Tom Hardy. I wasn't putting it together in my head.
I want, when he's flying, he sees, a German plane, and he's like, where's my German backup? The Germans have betrayed you.
I think one more slight thing, just really quickly, is the one other pitfall of this style of storytelling, because I think it was really cool to tell the story this way, is there is, it's a slight spoiler. So one of Tom Hardy's pilot friend goes down, and Tom Hardy watches this happen. That you see the plane hit, and then the pilot waves, and Tom Hardy's like, oh, that's cool. Takes off. Okay, so you see what happens after that later in the story. The pilot's waving because he's like, oh shit, I'm drowning. The plane's going under.
In the movie it looks like I'm okay, and in real life he's like, help!
That is cool. I like that. But one pitfall that I was trying to explain to people on my Facebook, and they weren't getting it, because but it was to show what happened after. I'm like, I get that. I'm not stupid. I'm like, the problem though is we know for a fact from what Nolan chose to show us that the plane lands safely and the pilot is waving. So we know he survives the impact. He's there. He's waved. For whatever reason, I can't figure it out. Nolan, the people on the boat are watching this plane crash, and all you need to do is show the people on the boat their point of view of the plane hitting, and then cut to the guy, all of a sudden he's like, oh shit. Instead, he does one of those shots. I think he just wanted a cool shot or something, but he does this shot where he's on the wing, and the plane's going down, and the Hans Zimmer music's like, chun chun chun, oh my god, will he survive? Will he make it? Chun chun. And I'm sitting there the whole time going but we know he made it because he was waving to
I'll go one further. I thought this is where you were going.
I didn't get it.
No, I thought this is where you're going with it. As he's flying over, he sees, Hardy sees the boat of the family heading towards him. So it's like, oh, okay, well, they're going to get him. Well, first of all, you know they're going to get there, but maybe they won't get there in time. The guy is kind of drowning and stuff like that. But you have them arguing, we have to go for the plane. No, there's someone in there. No, but he's dead. And, could be a survivor. We know they're going there. So why have this argument?
Yeah, it just, because in that shot, you literally see that boat heading straight for the plane.
Yeah, that's what it's like, oh, he'll be okay.
Honestly, okay, I'm really torn because I like that character of the pilot, and he did serve some purpose later on. I liked him watching his Tom Hardy try to shoot down that one plane, come on, mate, come on, get him. But there is a part of it was it would have been a much more poignant, tragic story if he drowned, because they're just the needs of the many, all these other guys we have to pick up who are about to be taken over by the Nazis outweigh the needs of this one dude. Because he, that guy delivered that line brilliantly. He's like, I know, son. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna do it. He's gonna just keep going. I'm torn. I'm okay with them saving him, even though it was a Hollywood moment. But at the same time, I'm also wondering, would it have been a better movie? Actually, the poor pilot.
Well, again, we don't know what really happened, but again, I sort of doubt a lot of this happened as technically as they
so that was my only. That's something if Nolan does this kind of thing again in the future. I'm just okay, if you're going to show us what happened to these guys, to begin with. Don't milk the suspense like, oh my god, is he going to survive the crash? Like, because we know he made it as far as hitting the water and
then
waving.
The last technical,
but that part afterwards was really cool.
Again, without any spoilers or anything, but there is something with one of the planes, the propeller stopping, and it's like, okay, we know you can still get some good airtime in the air after that, but there's a lot of technicals about this that do not add up.
Bullshit!
There's a ton of things about somehow turning around really quick, making like this landing, super far away, and it's like, okay. I really feel like this is not how it works, even though you can still get some good airtime. I'm like, this is not...
Yeah, so he's in a Spitfire. He's maybe 3,000 feet up, it looks like, judging by, where they're filming it. The propeller runs out. So I guess you want to just say this is spoiler material.
Let's just say
good movie.
Go see it. See it only on IMAX.
Great movie. But for a movie that's so realistic in so many ways, this just drove me up a wall. So the propeller runs out. Now, if you know anything about aircraft, you can still glide in safely. All you need is the speed, to keep going. But eventually you will lose airspeed and you'll start to go down. So you have to glide down. Somehow at about what looks like 3,000 feet up in the air, this guy is able to just keep floating for what seems like frickin' ever, do a full 180, shoot down another Nazi, shoots down another Nazi fighter, and then continues to just keep speeding off. And I'm like, my God, no, like the second that thing goes out, you got to start looking for a place to land.
He must have just waited for that plane to hit, be going down just at the right moment to hit him, because he can't go up or down, because that'll affect where he lands.
Yeah, it's one of the most amazing.
He can't even go up.
I'm like, it's just one of those hilarious. Like, I just want Han Solo to be like, great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million. Like, it just was so like, I'm like, no, honey, no.
Yeah, that's a Hollywood moment.
Definitely. And watch, you're gonna get comments. It's like, actually, theoretically, it could happen. Okay, yeah. Anything's possible. Yeah, anything's possible. Highly unlikely.
Yeah. I don't know. It seemed very, very, very... I just had so many questions.
Yeah, it was a Hollywood moment. I mean, it was cool seeing that thing come in, but I probably would have preferred it if, like, he just continued to glide in.
I wanted to be in that moment, because all the other moments where I was like,
out of the moment.
But I was just immediately asking, how is that possible? Or just even how likely is that? I mean, what are the...
But these are, I'm just like, in a movie that was still this great, like, I mean...
Maybe it really was like a miracle moment that happened in history. I haven't looked it up.
We're basically talking about the things that take it from an A+ movie to a high A movie, but this is a 95% movie. Totally. It was an experience on IMAX that I won't forget. Like, it is a big screen film. See it on the big screen. See it in IMAX.
If you can see it in IMAX, I would even argue if you can't see it in IMAX, get close to the screen. Like, it's definitely a very impressive big screen film, and really for the intention of making you feel like you're really there. It's not there just to show off the landscapes and stuff. It's like this film works because you feel like you're there.
Nolan is best at tension and big picture. And he nails both those things, and we don't have the Nolanism of all of the crazy reams of dialogue, so honestly, this is good. I think this is my favorite since Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, yeah. And the funny thing is, this summer, like, it's usually like...
Summer's been amazing!
Even the movies we have problems with, we still like. Like, I like Spider-Man despite our problems. We like Valerian.
We like Valerian.
Even the bad movies are kind of good.
I loved War for the Planet of the Apes.
I Guardians, Transformers.
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 I really liked. Baby Driver
Wonder Woman. Baby Driver was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some shit. There's Transformers. I didn't like Alien Covenant at all. But there's been some shit, but I just feel like the number of good movies versus the bad, though, like
we usually have more bad than good.
At least when it comes to the big blockbusters. I've been really solid.
It's one of the few times where I'm like, oh, like there's so many movies I have to see.
Yeah, because I told you,
I still gotta see War of the Planet of the Apes. I want to see Atomic Blonde. I mean, there's like all these movies coming out where it's just like, gee, it's hard to keep up with so many good movies, and I feel like that's a good problem to have,
It is, so I don't know.
And like I said, even kind of the bad ones have had, like, we kind of like Valerian.
This is going to be one of those, after the dumpster fire that was 2016, this is going to be one of those summers we look back on like, yeah, despite everything else going on in the world, this was amazing.
Yeah, it's a good movie that year.
Yeah, it was a good movie season.
So,
and to be fair, like, Transformers did decent overseas, but didn't do great here. So even some of the big ones that like normally bring in the money that we hate, not doing spectacular.
No, a lot of the movies
there's that as well.
Yeah, like Pirates didn't do as well,
Yeah, that sucked like too.
I hear Alien Covenant didn't do that. I mean, all the sort of repeats, like, I feel
Alien Covenant may have been the best one, but I still don't think it's that good.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's one of those where it's like sort of trying the newer stuff, just, I don't know, like not relying on old tricks, just making good movies.
Yeah, and those that are relying on the old tricks, it's like, well...
Yeah,
well,
they're catching on, I mean, they're not doing as well. They can still do okay, but they're catching on. So but more like this Hollywood. This is a good summer so far. So I'm digging it. I can't wait to see more of the Planet of the Apes. I don't know if I'll do a video on that one. I might just do like a Facebook post. But yeah, at some point I'll get to that. Girl says I need to see them.
You will believe an ape can make you cry.
Okay.
You will believe Andy Serkis should probably get a special Academy Award.
He'll get one of those honorary Oscars years later. That's what they're gonna do.
And the honorary frog suit Oscar goes to
honorary Oscar for doing a great...
it should be an Oscar like wrapped in a little green or gray frog suit or something.
Yeah, with like little dots on it. Yeah, little motion capture dots. So, that's about it, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.